I work with real people to solve their real problems. It's not about doing only wireframes, as we saw in the videos. Like some designers commented, wireframes, prototypes are a small part of interaction design, but it's beyond that. It's more about understanding human needs and observing them, their pain points and needs, and trying to come up with the solutions that would meet the needs. Not just any solution, but something that would help them to improve their lives. Today I will talk about ethics in design, but I will not tell you what's good or what's bad, because first of all, I'm not in a place to tell you what's good or what's bad. It's not that easy to evaluate what is good and what's bad, because mostly they're complementaries in Chinese philosophy yin yang. The picture you see here is a solution that a designer somewhere out there has thought of and built, and who was paid to come up with this solution. Our problem is homelessness, but this is far from being a solution to that problem, right? And this is not okay. I can't see anyone, but maybe in a larger audience, there are usually a couple of people during the speaks who are checking their Facebook feeds or Instagram feeds. And I don't blame them, because they're addictive. And everyone can relate to that. And most of the products that we use today, all the products that we're engaged with, they are giving us a little dopamine rush, and then they keep us wanting more of it. So we cannot really leave them aside and turn back to our real tasks in the real world. For every engaging app out there, you will find an addict. And for every connected community, you will find an echo chamber. For every single piece of news online, you will find an alternative fact. Every alert that you get is a lost opportunity to spend more time with your loved one. It's an interruption. Every Facebook chat or every WhatsApp group that you have, maybe it's something that keeps you from spending more time with your kids. And the list goes on, of course. It's not only limited with the examples in here. And while some of these bad habits or the addiction are unintended outcomes of these products, or creating an echo chamber is an unintended outcome, many are consciously made design decisions. There are some people out there who are deciding on these features who cannot keep you out of the Instagram stories loop to make you feel engaged. And when you look at how the brands manifest themselves, when you look at Facebook or Instagram, they all say that they want to create a better world to live in. Is it really their ultimate mission? Is entertaining humankind or engaging us, is it their mission in the world? Why do they do it? Because they make money out of that. For every second that you spend online looking at the screen that they create, they make money because they sell advertisements. And every single interaction that you have with these kind of applications, you give another piece of your personal data to them. And they make use of that data in so many different ways. Sometimes they sell it to third parties even, and have another source of income. Last week, here's a confession. Last week, I decided how much of a social media addict that I had become when my brother deliberately shared me a couple of content pieces via Facebook Messenger. And for every content that he shared with me, I replied him as, "I have already seen that, funny, isn't it?" Yeah, it happened. But how can I see every single content before he shared it with me? Is it possible? Yes. If you're an addict, it's possible that you see every single content before everyone else, because you spend a significant amount of time looking at your screen, following and scrolling down your feed. So it was an enlightening moment for me. Now I'm trying to limit myself from doing that. With the help of technology, the design world is expanding faster than ever. And it brings a tremendous level of complexity in terms of moral obligations. When you see it in the corner, it starts with the digital interfaces, with the less complexity. And expands to more abstract themes and concepts like services and innovation, and they bring more and more complexities. It's not that easy just to decide whether they're good or bad, because they bring different lenses to look through. There might be some questions that would help us and guide us through the decision-making process, whether something is good or bad. First of all, we can ask the question, does it create a better world? To who, how, and why? Let's see the questions in action, if they can validate our assumptions. How many of you heard of this app, Be My Eyes? Can you tell us what it does? Yeah.
All right. Well, you're supposed to, how's it called, describe the world to a blind person. So it's like you can see, and then the blind person that cannot see. You describe what you're seeing.
In real time.
In real time. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And can you tell us if it creates a better world, in your opinion?
I heard about it. I heard people that worked at it, but I'm not very sure how it works.
Yeah, it's not about how it works, but it's the general concept. Do you think that it creates a better world? Does it really create value for some kind of people?
Well, definitely, especially if the person in there is in a so-called critical situation.
Yes.
Needs to buy something, I don't know, at the pharmacy or whatever.
Yes, exactly. And it can be a small thing as reading the expiry date on a milk carton, or it can be trying to navigate through a new surrounding in the city. So also, in my opinion, it creates a better world for the blind and visually impaired people by bringing them together with the people who are willing to help them by investing in their time. When we look at the digital interfaces, maybe some of these questions are too high level, but we have another theme called dark patterns. Have you ever heard of the term dark pattern in the user experience? You did, you're nodding. What is a dark pattern?
They're trying to make somebody respond in the way that you want to, not in the way that is preferred for the user, but in the way that is preferred for you.
Exactly. And sometimes they feel like a coincidence, or they might even feel like bad design, but they're not coincidence, nor they're bad designs. They're consciously made decisions by having an extensive knowledge of human psychology. And they're intentionally made. They're not there by a mistake, or they are not done by a bad designer. In fact, it's very clever. And all the designers doing those things, they are good designers. They're not bad designers. But why are they used? Is it because people are evil or the companies are greedy? Well, to some extent, yes. It's because the companies are greedy, they want to make more money. But also, you can discuss, companies are consisting of employees, people who are working for them, right? And if they're not necessarily evil, how they can do these decisions, or how they can approve these kind of decisions to be in the market? Well, it's because they want to keep their jobs. And when it comes to their performance measurements, it's mostly measured by the clicks that they bring, or the sign-ups that they get, or the number of email addresses they can collect with the newsletter that they're trying to publish, and all the personal information that they can gather from the users or the customers. So it's all because of the heavy business models and the key performance indicators that every company uses. There are different types of dark patterns, in fact, 10 different kinds, and there are really good websites out there to learn more detail. I would like to tell briefly each one of them what it is, and for the first two, I will explain in the detailed examples. The first one is forced continuity. I think we have all been there. We give our credit card information for a free month of trial period, and then we are billed for the upcoming month without even being noticed. The second one is called misdirection, and they purposefully focus your attention on one thing in order to distract your attention from another thing. They're trying to change your decision-making process, your cognitive workload. When you're trying to focus on one action, they show you something and they distract you. The third one is called Roach Motel. Easy to get in, hard to get out. Very basically, this is all the free ebooks that you download online by giving your email address, right? All of a sudden, you start getting emails from that company that you got the ebook from, and then you discover it's not that easy to unsubscribe from that service anymore. The fourth one is hidden cost. Those little add-ups to the initial price that's offered to you. Remember the concert ticket that you bought online. When you reach at the last step of the checkout, you see some operational costs, convenience fees, or even some additional costs if you want to print your ticket at home. So it's a great example to that. Fifth one, disguised ads. Download buttons opening up all irrelevant advertisement pages. This is very relatable if you're familiar with the online streaming concept. All the download or watch now buttons leading to so many endless advertisements online. Another one is bait and switch. In this case, the user sets out to do one thing, but a different, undesirable thing happens instead. As an example to that, in 2016, Windows published an upgrade to the operating system. And in the pop-up window, they included a close button, which is known as closing the window, not taking any action further on. They changed the aim of that button, so the users who decided to close the installation suggestion, the upgrade suggestion, all of a sudden they found themselves in the update process. And it created a big public backlash for Microsoft. This is not okay. I mean, there are so many other ways to communicate people that they have to download the upgrade, because there might be some benefits to do that, right? But you can't really trick people to do that. Friend spam. This is really embarrassing because the product asks for your email or social media permission, stating that it will be used for a desirable outcome, finding friends or finding people from your professional network, but then spams all of your contacts in a message that claims to be from you. LinkedIn did that at some point. I don't know how it works right now. I'm too afraid to try it out to give my contacts. I'm always fully awake when I'm opening a LinkedIn page and reading every single detail. Price comparison prevention is something that you can come across in the supermarkets. On one side, there are some loose apples. On the other side, there are packages that consist of 6 apples. Loose apple price is per weight, and the packaged apple price is in per unit. Do you know why they put the price like that? Because they don't want you to calculate which is cheaper, which could be more economical to buy. Of course, you can do it if you're good at maths. You can even do it on the go. But most people don't want to have that. I mean, why would we have to calculate the price of the apple when we're just buying fruit, right? Sneak into basket. This is also very familiar. You attempt to buy something online, and when you reach at the when you open your shopping cart, all of a sudden something smaller in size appears automatically. When you buy a phone, for example, there is also a phone cover that adds automatically. And the last one is the trick questions. You respond to a question which, when glanced upon quickly, appears to ask one thing, but if read carefully, asks another thing entirely. Recently, I witnessed this. It happened to one of my friends. He tried to sign up for an online training platform called Udemy. And as it happens in most of the sign-up forms, you need to confirm your email address by clicking on the link that you receive in your email, right? When he clicked the email, there was a pop-up that he came across with. And there was one big green button which says, yes, please. And on top of that, confirm my account and blah, 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 blah. And he wanted to just do it quickly because he didn't have time to read every single detail, so he was tricked into that. But what it was saying, apart from confirming the account, was that they were subscribing him to the newsletters without him noticing. And how to do it without getting into the subscription list? There was a very tiny link underneath the button that says, just confirm my account. Now I would like to focus on misdirection by giving you 2 examples and how it's achieved. Usually they show optional options as obligatory options. You are tricked by thinking that you have to do it. It's not optional. Sometimes they hide the option to skip a step at the very bottom of the page, or they make it very small that you don't even notice that it's there. Or they can even play with the button styles using primary call to action buttons for either upsell or cross-sell options. And this is mostly seen in low-cost airlines booking systems and games. Now, the example comes from Norwegian Airlines. You might want to cut this part from the video when you're uploading it to the YouTube. I don't want to get sued by Norwegian Airlines for doing this assessment. But I think it's a good example to show how the combination of dark patterns trick people to pay more. But I love Norwegian Airlines, yeah. So this screen, there isn't really anything because you just need to select from and to and click on the search button. The next screen, you need to select your ticket type and continue, which is also okay. And the continue button, yeah, you click on start reservation. Then, all of a sudden, they display you this seat reservation screen. Okay, and I had the impression that I need to select my screen. It's something that they provide me as a privilege without asking any extra cost. It wasn't the case, however, and I didn't see any skip this step button somewhere visible above the fold. Doesn't exist. So I selected my seat. I thought it was good. And then I was charged an extra 120 kronas. But it didn't end there because in the beginning I chose a return ticket, which my return flight was through connecting flights. So I needed to choose 2 more seating reservations for the connecting flight. Okay, I did that. So actually, in total, I was charged 3 times for every single seat that I selected. Then I continue and I see so many other things, whether I need a fast track or not. So I have to think what time I'm flying. Does the Copenhagen airport get crowded in that time? Do I need a fast track? Do I not need a fast track? I decide not to. Any special baggages? Any pets? Nothing. And finally, yes, I'm about to reach to the payment page. I come here, and then I realize all of a sudden, okay, it added up too much. 3 seats. I want to just cancel some of them. And I guess I should be able to do it here on this page without going back. There was you can't see it there, but there is a little plus icon next to the seat. You click on there, assuming that you should be able to reset your seat. No, it just tells you that you reserved the seat. You cannot do it here. But here is also another trick, because when people invest too much of their time and effort when they're trying to buy something, they don't go back all the time because it creates another hassle. And they're like, okay, whatever, I will just pay the fee because I'm in a hurry. I have to book this seat, and I don't care. So what was the way to reset your seat was basically going all the way back to the screen where you selected your seat in the first place, and to click on this very invisible reset button. It looks very inactive, doesn't it? Yeah. And it doesn't look similar to any other button styles that they use on the website. This is also something that they did on purpose. They don't want you to reset your seat that you deserved. But how do you skip selecting a seat option in the first place without clicking any of the seats? You have to scroll down the page, and you see a red button, which is primary action button, continue, without selecting. it should work in the way that you don't select, right? I was expecting that it was going to direct me to the payment page. No, that's not the case. This time they try one more time and display you an alert asking that if you would like to continue without reserving a seat for this part of your journey. Also, the button labels are not that self-explanatory, right? Okay, cancel. I clicked on cancel. I stayed on the same page without doing anything. I clicked on OK. And then they displayed the return flight ticket of my itinerary to select seats again. So they're not giving up that easily. So the lesson learned, next time, when you're booking a flight, you have to be fully awake, not even tipsy. Yes. Not only Norwegian, there are so many other airlines doing and applying these dark patterns here and there. But I picked Norwegian because it was easy to read. They have a really nice layout, nice UI. So it was clear to see where were the dark patterns. There are some other bad ones who look also very cluttered that you don't even realize it's a dark pattern.
It's not exactly like known for this kind of stuff, like Ryanair, for example.
Well, before,
Way when you're there.
yeah. The first airline that I checked when I was trying to find an example was EasyJet. EasyJet is also a low-cost airline, right? And at least they do a better job than Norwegian, because in the screen that they display you the seat reservation option, you can find continue without reservation button above the fold very clearly in the primary button style. So you're not really tricked there. They at least show you that. And they're not trying to trick you to book in a couple of steps. They are being more honest, in my opinion.
So, like, especially Norwegian, if it's a Norwegian, if it's based there, you expect that it's like not allowed, because but they do. So
Yeah.
you'd expect to be protected as a customer.
No, because they have to sell the seats. They have to make extra money because it's their business model. They're low-cost airline. Because, well, for the users, you have to know all these things and you have to be awake. You have to keep your eyes on the target like a predator when you're buying a flight ticket. Otherwise, you might end up paying way too much for the things that you don't even know that you booked. But luckily, there has to be an extra step in the purchase. You cannot buy automatically. So here it's trying to connect to the App Store, and on that screen there is also a cancel button. So they compensate somehow what they did in the previous screen, because also the cancel button comes in a primary button style and easy to see. Any questions, any comments at this point? All right. Second one, forced continuity. And it's usually achieved by unclear, deceptive communication when signing up to a service, or hidden cancel subscription buttons, or very complicated flows to unsubscribe from a service. And we have all been there. Almost every single digital service now has that. This is the Netflix example. I don't know if it's the recent one. Could be the previous screen. But basically, when you're trying to start your free month, they ask your credit card details. They say that you can cancel anytime you want, but they don't clearly tell you that you will be charged automatically after your trial period ends. They do say it, but in this very small font information that you tend to skip. Second example to that is from Amazon Prime, their Prime service where you get your deliveries faster without any extra costs. This is funny because when you Google it, there are so many guidelines that people created about how to unsubscribe from Amazon Prime online. You can see endless list of guidance with the numbers, specific numbers. First, you have to click this and this and this and this. So you can already say that it's not that easy, and it's done by purpose. First, you have to go to your account page, and here is a button that says do not continue. It's also misleading because do not continue with what? Do not continue with the cancellation process, or do not continue with the subscription. You click on that, assuming that you should be able to cancel at that moment, but no. Here, they display 3 other options for you. They are also trying to confuse you a bit. Providing too many choices to a user is overwhelming, and they know that. Here, they try one more time, and they offer you to change to Prime Instant Video Service to keep you there. They have a Remind Me Later feature that you can set an alert before your free trial ends. I'm not sure how it works, though I haven't tried it. Maybe they also have a trick there. Maybe it doesn't work that well. No one knows. Here, they repeat the same label by saying do not continue. So, not that easy. Now let's focus on services. What could be the ethical issues around the services when we skip the interface side? Especially the services that aim to create a behavior change, to form a new habit, or to change a bad habit that you keep. And most of the things that they do is they create algorithms for decision-making process. And those algorithms that they create, they're not on the personal level. They're too broad, either too narrow, because they're based on biases. They make assumptions about these people, how they're motivated, how we can make them to walk more, how we can make them to eat less. And all these things, they all based on some prejudices. They also tend to trivialize a very complex thing, make it look really easy. To form a habit takes a lot of time. It's not that easy, but they talk about it as if it's just you're not really good at keeping your goals and achievements. And they can be paternalistic. Sometimes, some of them have even a snarky tone that you feel like they're judging you because you can't keep up to their expectations. You don't do what they do by sending you with all the notifications. But what they're missing is behavior change is psychological and emotions are involved. Just a second. And when emotions are involved, it becomes very personal. You can't generalize people and you can't put them in clusters because you're not with them. You don't know if they have had a bad day or a good day, and you're annoying them by saying that they need to walk 30 more minutes today in order to reach their goals. And this one, I thought about this a lot. It is a parent and baby smart band. It might feel familiar to you, Mark, because I know that you also talked about the wearable that people attach to their babies, the baby bodies. There are so many different versions of these wearables online, but this one is especially interesting because it's kind of using the tone that we know what's best for you. We know that you suck at being a new mom, and we will guide you through that. How does it do it? First, it tracks every breastfeeding, bottle feeding, diaper change, nap time, and so many other parameters, and it asks you to keep the data. Then, it asks you to create reminders, both for yourself and for the baby. It also tracks your activities, your diets, the food you eat, and how much calories that you burn throughout that day. It's an endless loop of notifications and reminders that even feels like a hamster on a spinning wheel, right? And then I asked the question to myself, do we really need an app like this? What happened to the natural instincts of mom? And up until now, parents have been just doing okay by raising the babies without killing them, right? And babies are so good at communicating by just crying, letting you know that something is wrong or they need something. Do we really need an app to not forget that we have to feed the baby or we have to change the diaper? Let's look at the innovation side. The innovation is even more complex because there are multiple perspectives to think about. Now rethink the earlier questions in the beginning that we tried to answer. They're still valid when it comes to innovations, but there is one more that I would like to add. it's someone's good, someone else's bad. So it gives an opportunity for us to judge if our concept is good for some and bad for some others, right? I will talk about ride-hailing app Uber. I know everyone knows Uber. And right now they're shutting down the operations in Denmark because of the law enforcement. It's a recent decision. This example is interesting, not only because they face significant backlash over claims of sexual harassment or gender discrimination, or a viral video of its CEO arguing the prices with an Uber driver. These are all the different issues that are adding on top of everything, but let's take a step back and think about the initial concept of Uber. Who is it good for? It's good for riders, right? Because it provides a convenient and safer taxi ride for people, and it's easy to use. So I believe it's good for riders. It's also good for people who would like to make some extra money. And in fact, for some people, it's the main source of income. They become Uber drivers and they earn money. So I believe it's also good for people who are Uber drivers. But now, riders and the driver's good is someone else's bad. Yes, we can say that. We have seen lots of demonstrations in many major cities against Uber. People say that they take their jobs away. And it's true, because they can't compete with that. So here is how the equation looks like for now. On one side, riders and Uber drivers. On the other side, other taxi drivers. But it's not that simple, because we always say it's not a good approach to generalize when we are designing, right? When we generalize riders, we are missing so many other sub-points. Let's focus on the riders and visit two different types of these riders in specific contexts. Senior people. We all know, especially in Europe, the population is aging. And actually, I didn't know that they constitute a large amount of Uber users until I came across this article. Basically, it says a casual rider might need 1-2 rides a week, but a senior citizen who has no means of transportation need 1 or 2 rides every single day. And using Uber is easy for them. It might be difficult in the beginning to jump on a mobile app and to learn how to use it, but most of them have younger relatives who can teach them and who can onboard them using the app. And what struck me about this article when I read it was, it says old people, they can't just ask for help from others. And because of that, the old people who can't drive, they miss 15% of their medical appointments compared to their peers who can drive. So in this specific context, and for this specific type of riders, it's even extra good. The second case, imagine you are visiting a city as a tourist. You arrive at a central station, you need to get a cab, there is no cab around, and you don't speak the language. One of my former bosses told the story a couple of years back. He landed in Brussels Central Station in the middle of the night, and he couldn't find any decent taxi to take him to the hotel. And I don't know how the situation is in Belgium right now with Uber, but back then he said it was banned. So in my opinion, banning a service that works well for people and a service that people benefit from is also not the most moral act, and also not replacing it with a better alternative or only providing the crappy solutions doesn't compensate either. Now this is a different lens that I'm trying to put in front of your eyes. It's a gray ball case, which is news, I think, for some in this room, because it's released in the beginning of March. New York Times reported that for years, Uber used a tool called Greyball to systematically deceive law enforcement officials in so many different countries and big cities. How they did it? They used geolocation data, social media accounts, some other personal data to spot these city agencies. And they created an alternative version of Uber. When they open the app, they can see the taxis going around. And when they try to call a taxi, no one comes and picks them up. So they try to just put a curtain in front of these people who might also be some real users in that, because they can't guarantee that all the people that they spotted and tracked are the people who are trying to ban the Uber in that city. They justified this program saying in a statement that it denies right requests to some users who are violating our terms of service, whether that's people aiming to physically harm drivers, it could happen, competitors looking to disrupt their operations, or opponents who collude with officials on secret stings to entrap drivers. Well, there are different points of view in this case, and I think how you judge what is good or what is bad depends on how you can empathize with most. So how are we going to design? Like you asked, how would I do it? Should we use dark patterns in user experience? Should we disregard a group of people maybe our solution is not so good for? The answer is not simple yes or no. It's much more complicated than that. In the ideal world, I agree that we should always put users in the core of our equation. But we are not living in an ideal world, unfortunately. So it becomes a balancing act between business and humans. As designers, we are used to know the user's needs, and we are used to investigate what their needs and wants are. We can observe them, we can do a lot of research, and we can just define what they need. But for the business side, sometimes what business needs and what people want, they don't harmonize that well. They can be on the other ends of the equation. And in this case, it's not that easy to define the level of compromise we are going to make as a designer. It gets even more complicated if a designer's wishes and own taste also gets into the equation. So that's why design is very complex, and it takes a lot of compromises. And as designers, we have to practice that. We can't always sit at our shiny, pretty desk and design nice, shiny-looking screens. We have to take part in this equation. We have to create an impact. We can't do, of course, we can't make every single decision. There are so many other people who are involved. But what we can do is, we can be aware that we are influencing the user, and we must always use good judgment. We have to put pros and cons and define what is good for who, what is bad for who, and then we can decide after doing that analysis. A second one, to make that decision, we should always keep in mind that we are the advocate of user-centered design. We are the advocate of users. If there needs to be a compromise made, designers should be the ones who are making that compromise. Because if you're not there making that compromise, someone else is going to make it. And you don't know what they're going to decide on. And of course, we should be able to say no for some requests. And I like very much when I come across with a designer who has principles, who stands firm on the ground, which is completely fine, and we should be able to do that too. But by just saying no to a project, you can't prevent that project to happen. There are so many other people out there who are going to do it willingly. So if you want to create an impact and change the world, you should educate your coworkers and clients tirelessly. Because I believe, as designers, our mission to educate others is bigger than our mission to design stuff. It is difficult and it's tiring. It's exhausting. But we have to become educators. Last but not least, design is a service. And it's a process, and it is inclusive. You can't just sit in your ivory tower and tell people what to do and expect them to do what you want them to do. You have to facilitate, and you have to create a common ground to meet all these different parts of the equation together. To change the organizational structure, to create real impact when you're designing a new product, you can't be the only one doing everything. There has to be other people involved, and you have to facilitate this process. I guess that's all I wanted to say. For some further reading, these are some good articles that I came across on Medium and some other websites.